She helps everyday people better understand their finances, and in the process, she has built a media empire. She hosts her own TV series on CNBC, has written half a dozen New York Times bestsellers, and Time magazine has included her on their list of the world's most influential people. However, she's not without her critics who question the depth of her advice and knowledge. In 2007, her personal life took center stage when she acknowledged in the New York Times Magazine that she is a lesbian. Hello, I'm Ernie Manouse. Coming up on InnerVIEWS, our conversation with financial guru Suze ORMAN. At this point in your career, how do you gauge success?
Project by project, to tell you the truth. It's no longer this overall definition of success. I know I'm successful. I know I'm wealthy. I know I'm powerful. But it's little things that happen every day, individual products. Do I like this? Do I like that? Do I like how I feel when I'm doing this? When I feel happy about what I'm doing, now I know I've hit success for that day. So I now judge success day by day at a time.
When you said, now I know I'm successful, do you know when that moment hit that you woke up and finally said, I've done it?
Yeah, I have to tell you, I had just taped the Ellen DeGeneres show. And we were in the car on the way back to the airport, and the cell phone rang. And it was Amanda Urban, my agent, my book agent. And she said, Suze, Time magazine just named you one of the most 100 influential people of the world. Now, at that moment, I'm like, what are you talking about? Because I could remember looking at the magazine and going, wow, look at these people, look at this one. These are really important people. Knowing that, of course, I would never be one of the most 100 influential people of the world. And at that moment, I remember thinking, oh my God, I made it. I did it.
Yeah.
It almost took my breath away.
Take me all the way back, the very beginning, trouble in school, not a great reader. I read a story, you were in the back of the class because your teacher put you in order of how well you could read.
Yeah.
What does that do to a child?
Well, obviously not a lot, because look at me today.
But maybe an awful lot, because look at you today.
Yes, you see, I knew I was never going to amount to anything. It's true, I went, to Horseman grade school, went to South Shore High School, the south side of Chicago, and back then they sat you according to your reading scores. And I did horrific on my reading scores, horrific. So I was always in the 6th row, last seat. I knew I was stupid, I knew I was dumb, so why should I even try to do anything? But somehow, in not trying, I learned how to love people. It was all of a sudden I didn't have to be anything. All I had to do was be. I didn't have any goals to live up to because all I had to do was live.
Yeah.
So when I was being a waitress for the 7 years at the Buttercup Bakery, Ernie, I loved every single day that I went into that bakery. I loved the people I waited on. I loved seeing them. I loved serving them. And I really felt complete. I felt like I could do that my entire life.
Not a hunger in you for something more, not a I haven't fulfilled some secret
No, and do you
passion?
understand that's the gift? The gift was everybody told me I was stupid, so I didn't have a hunger to be anything. I just had the hunger to be.
So somewhere along the line, though, that hunger to be says, well, maybe I want my own restaurant. Maybe I want to do something. Maybe I should share my dreams with someone else. Where does that come from? What made you make that next step instead of just being? You were a happy waitress.
I was a happy waitress who saw that via my ideas, via my suggestions, a little tiny bakery that sat maybe 30 people or so, all of a sudden sat 80. All of a sudden sat 105 because they were expanding. And these were my ideas that I was giving to them. And they would try it and they'd go, wow. And I watched them get bigger houses, and I watched them get better cars, and I watched their salaries go up while mine still was at $400 a month. And this little inkling of a thought was, oh my God, I'm doing this for them. I can do this for myself. So it was through 7 years of serving others that really I was serving me without even knowing it.
Right. Now, along the way, you talk to a customer. Customer then gathers the other customers together, and they give you money to say, here's
$50,000.
$50,000 as an investment in your future.
Yeah.
You take that money and invest it.
Yeah.
All goes away.
Well, I didn't know I was investing it. I was told by Fred Hasbrook is his name, to simply take all of that money because I wanted to open up my own restaurant, and my parents didn't have any money to give me, so where does a kid, get money to open up a restaurant, so not such a kid. Here I am, 28, 29 years of age now, so, I'm getting there. So all the customers gathered their money, $50,000, and told me to put it in a money market account at Merrill Lynch until they could help me open up my own restaurant. The financial advisor wasn't the most honest of financial advisors. He put all the money into the options market. How does somebody like me even know what the options market is? And within 3 months, all $50,000 was lost. So that was a very interesting thing to have happen, and probably the turning point of my life. Because when you lose everything, you have nothing to lose. And it also taught me that, oh my God, what is it, Suze Orman, that you really want to do now? You got a taste of having money. You had a taste of possibly seeing your dream come true. But then it was like, well, maybe that wasn't supposed to be my dream. Maybe that wasn't what God really wanted for me or with me. I always think God is my partner in crime here. And so I thought, I know, I can be a broker. They just make you broker. But the real truth of the matter is I actually enjoyed, Randy was his name, the stockbroker. I really enjoyed what Randy was doing with the money. And I was learning about it little by little as he was doing it. And I finally had learned enough to know that we were going to lose it all a few days before it was lost. So the whole thing helped me become who I am today.
In your past, then, ever a love for numbers, for math, for money, or did this all come at that point?
All came at that point. I was good with math. I remember Mr. Edwards at South Shore High School letting me grade all of the other kids' exams and me changing Mimi and Leslie's exams so that they would pass, right? But, yeah, I know that's not a good thing to say, but I didn't want my friends to fail. I still don't want my friends to fail. And so I obviously was good with numbers and logic and putting things together. Money isn't about being good with math. Money is being good with thinking logically. It's either logical to buy something that you have money, to spend, or if you don't have the money, it's not logical to spend money you don't have.
You make the connection. Messy home, messy car, you're probably messy with money?
Yes. Well, it's not messy. It's if you have clutter. So if your wallets have these dollar bills and everything crumpled up into it, they're in all disarray. If your closets look like a hurricane hit it, and so you have things on the floor. If your garage is full of stuff, if your cellar is full of stuff, if every drawer is packed full, if your car looks like a garbage can, you most likely aren't good with money. Why? Because all these things that are just cluttering up your life and that you're treating with such disrespect cost you money. So if you can't respect the things that money can buy, I can't imagine that you can respect money itself. So somebody who lives in a cluttered mess is usually a mess with their money as well.
If you clean up your house, will the money come then?
If you clean up your house, actually, what's interesting is in India, the goddess of money is named Lakshmi. And every day you will see in India, they sweep their porches clean. They make sure that everything is just spotless because they say Lakshmi will not dwell in filth. So on some level, I have to tell you, there are 8 qualities of wealth. I talk about it in my Women in Money book. One of the qualities is cleanliness. If you clean your home, you feel more energetic. If you feel more energetic, you have power to go out and do things. You have the energy to do things. If you clean your house and you put everything in order, for a time anyway, you'll find the bills that maybe you were going to be late on. You won't buy another white turtleneck that you already have 5 of, because you'll see that you have 5 of them already. So on some level, you invite money into your life by being orderly. If you get disorderly again, it's not about your money. It's about your state of your own personal fears with yourself, how you feel about who you are.
Yeah. The pop psychology part of your financial advice. And looking back, I would say you're probably the first financial advisor that's married these things together.
Yes, I was.
What made you come up with that? What made you start to realize there was more than just the balance sheet?
This is an easy answer, in that I was a financial advisor. I was seeing clients. I would have people come into my office, and I would tell people, get a will, get a trust, pay off this debt, put money in this retirement account, do these 5 things. Very simple. They would go away. They'd come back 6 months later. Didn't get a will, didn't get a trust, didn't put money in the retirement accounts, didn't do any of those things. They were brain surgeons, they were teachers, they were, lawyers, they were all kinds of people, and none of them did what I would ask them to do with their money. And I would say, why didn't you do it? What's blocking you from doing it? What's up? And then I started to ask certain questions about who they were versus what they had. And then it all came to light one day when, the way a financial advisor really works is that they pick one stock. They then call every single client they have, and they do the same pitch to every single client, and every client buys whatever shares of XYZ stock they can afford. Mm-hmm. I started to notice that all of my clients bought XYZ stock at the same price. Some clients would sell XYZ stock. It would go from 10 to 5. Some clients would sell it. Some clients would keep it. Then it would go from 5 to 20. I started to notice that the same people always lost money on the stocks that I suggested when they would go from 10 to 5 and then 5 to 20. And the same people always made money on the stocks that I suggested because they kept it long enough for the stock to do what it needed to do. I then started to ask the question, why did you buy this stock, to the people? The people who had fear, the people who had these emotions about it, would say, well, I was afraid not to. I was afraid that I'd miss a good deal. I was afraid that you wouldn't like me. That fear created a loss. The people who always had a gain would say to me, because it was the best thing to do. It was an intelligent decision. I knew I should do it. You told me to do it. I had faith in you, Susie. So the emotion of fear came into play, and people would lose money. And then it was like, oh my God, emotions dictate what happens to money. Over and over again that happened, and that's how the whole thing started.
Now, before we leave that period of your life to move forward, there is one area that we have never talked about, and I've known you for years. You were roommates with John Belushi.
I was.
How did I never know this?
Oh, God, I don't know. In fact, I'm still good friends with Judy Jacklin. Just had, his wife, before he died, obviously, just a little bit ago in New York City. Here's the story. When I first went to the University of Illinois, I lived in Florida Avenue Residency, room 222, and Judy Jacklin and Carol Morgan, they were roommates at the time, lived, I think, on the 6th floor, somewhere in there. We then all decided that we couldn't afford living in the dorm anymore because it was too expensive, so we all moved in, the 3 of us. 3 beds, one here, one here, one here. And here's the door. This was my bed, Carol's bed, Judy's bed. But with Judy came John. I was like, what are you talking about? These are single, tiny beds. But John moved in. John had been, the high school sweetheart of Judy. Then we moved to another place where it was 2 bedrooms, and I shared the bedroom with Judy and John there. And then we just lived together, and they were fabulous. But, the real story about it is, and I always laugh to this day with Judy about it, so don't listen to my stock picks. I always said to Judy, don't you dare marry him. He is never going to amount to anything. Do you hear me, Miss Jacklin? Of course, I couldn't have been more wrong about that if I tried.
Now, we know the story of John Belushi and what ends up happening and his whole career and all of that. But when he was this young guy living with you, what was he like?
Exactly like the movie Animal House. Exactly. Once I was supposed to meet him after, we were at the University of Illinois, so after classes we were all supposed to meet and go. And so I'm in the bedroom, I'm waiting for them, they're not coming home yet. All of a sudden John gets out of the bed. And I'm like, what is that? He was under all of his clothes. Who even knew? He was sleeping. So he was funny. He did this skit called The Living Womb. I'll never forget it, where he would, feed the baby. He'd say, turkey. It was Thanksgiving. He was hysterical. So John was exactly like you would think John was. What a loss.
As long as we're talking about John Belushi, takes us into Saturday Night Live, takes us into, maybe they've spoofed you a little bit over there.
Yes, I think so. Don't you love it? 3 times or 4 now. I can't remember. Kristen
You love
Wiig,
it, too.
Fabulous. Do you know that I actually was in the audience during one of the times that Kristen Wiig was spoofing me? And fabulous. Again, we go back to the beginning of this conversation. How do you know success is hit? When they spoof you on Saturday Night Live, you have hit. You have hit really, really big. And what's interesting, it was at the Time 100 dinner where they were honoring all of us, where Kristen Wiig was there. They had just spoofed me the first time, and that's when I was told they're going to do it a second time, and they invited me to come there and sit and watch. Fabulous.
Do you look at how you perform now on television after seeing yourself spoofed? Does it make you aware of things?
Yes, and I hate it, so that's why I don't watch myself anymore. More than watching myself on TV, here's what happens. I'm actually doing my show. We taped my show. And I'm sitting there, and I'm looking in the camera, and all of a sudden, my hands are going, and da-da-da, you are, and I'm thinking, oh, my God, Susie, you are playing yourself, playing Kristen Wiig, playing you. So all of a sudden, you hear the producer say in my ear, Susie, what's wrong? And I go, it was just an SNL moment.
Yeah.
So it doesn't happen while I'm watching it. It happens more when I'm actually on TV, being me, while we're taping.
Yeah.
Like just now. Boyfriend.
Okay.
And jackets, yes.
Yes. And you do have buttons on your, is it back? Buttons up and down?
Oh, who knows what I got out of that.
Yeah. Okay, taking you back again. You write your first book.
Yes.
Then you write your second book. A lot of success hits now.
Big success.
Difference between first and second book, do you think?
Well, the truth is, the first book, You've Earned It, Don't Lose It, was a tremendous success. But I didn't know it was a tremendous success because I had nothing to measure it against. Who knew that a successful hardback book for a hardback author, a book that's hardback, bam, 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 you can hear it, if they sell 6,000 to 25,000 copies, that's considered a success. Who knew that? You've Earned It, Don't Lose It sold 120,000 copies in a relatively short, like 3 months. It was a serious success. Mm-hmm. But who knew? I didn't know. All I thought is, okay, I'm writing a book. I was paid a $10,000 advance to write a book that I split with Linda Mead, who was my agent and co-writer at the time. And I thought, oh, great. I didn't have a clue until I was sitting in somebody's office. And they said to me, what are you talking about, Suze Orman? 120,000 copies in hardback in 3 months with no publicity. They're just sold. Are you kidding, Miss Orman? You could get $100,000, $300,000 for your next book. And I went, what did you say? Because Newmarket Press, who was the publisher of the first book, had offered me $20,000 for my next book, which was 9 Steps to Financial Freedom. And I said, okay. I thought I was doubling my money. What did I know? I wasn't an author. I'm a financial advisor. I didn't know the author world. When they said that, I went, really? They said, Susie, don't tell us you sold that book for $20,000. We called up Esther. She hadn't signed the contract yet. She hadn't gotten around to it. We pulled the contract back. Somehow I end up in Amanda Urban, Binky Urban's office, one of the top agents in the United States of America. 9 Steps to Financial Freedom. It was a package deal, but sold for $800,000.
Wow. Mm-hmm. What was it about the second book, though, do you think connected with the audience? Then the first book is, second book goes bananas, huge beyond.
Well, listen, the second book came out, and it sold 300,000 copies in hardback the first year. Fabulous. Second year, the Oprah effect. Thank you very much. We're on the Oprah Winfrey Show, and I think in 1 month it sold 1 million copies. So there's one person that you can credit to making that book sell as much as it did, or at least exposing it to the world, and that would be Miss Oprah Winfrey. She had it on her show 14 times. I will forever, forever be indebted to Miss Winfrey.
Yeah. When you then sit down to write the next book and the book after that, is there a sense of an added responsibility that goes with it then?
Yes, it was actually scary because 9 Steps to Financial Freedom was the #1 selling book of all hardback nonfiction books in 1998. It sold the equivalent, according to Publishers Weekly, of like John Grisham's book. The book was a phenomenon. It was like #1 on every list for almost a year. So people were resonating with the book. They were loving the book because you can't just have a book on Oprah, and if the people read the book and they don't like it, it's not going to sell. So people loved this book. Oprah loved this book, which is why that happened to it. The next book, The Courage to Be Rich. It's a big thing to live up to. Big thing to live up to, and I'll never forget, it came out, and I get a call from the publisher a week after it's out, and they go, Suze, the good news is you're #1 on the New York Times bestseller list. The bad news is you knocked 9 Steps to Financial Freedom down to #2. So for a while there, I had in hardback the #1 and #2 slots on the New York Times hardback bestseller list. I don't know if anybody else has ever done that, to tell you the truth. Then it started to be like, and that book went on to sell like 1 million copies. Right. And then it started to get harder and harder, and here we are 9 books later, right? All of them New York Times bestsellers.
Yeah. Now, along the way, you decide that you're going to open up about your private life.
Yes.
And I would say you've had all of this success and all of this there. Was there fear about coming out and saying who I really am?
Yeah.
And how do you make that decision?
I didn't make that decision. I have to tell you the truth, Ernie. Everybody knew me. They knew I was gay. Now, I have no problem talking about it. Listen, we did a PBS special years ago. I didn't hide it from you. Didn't hide it from PBS. Never hid it from CNBC. Never hid it from any of my business partners. But it's not something that I talked about on air because I'm the money lady. I want to talk to you about your money, whether you're gay, whether you're straight, whether you're rich, whether you're poor, no matter what color you are. I want to talk to you about money because that's my passion. So I never hid it. Everybody knew about it. But again, as I said, I never talked about it. Now, was I afraid that if it came out, maybe there would be some ramifications? If it came out on, across America, of course I was. Because people didn't know me. Maybe they knew my story or not, but I didn't have a chance to interact with them one-on-one, so I didn't know what that would do. So I always lived in fear that that would happen. Then one day, I was being interviewed by Deborah Solomon of the New York Times Magazine. It was supposed to be an interview about my book, Women and Money. Women and Money was premiering February 27, 2007. Her article and her interview was supposed to premiere in New York Times Magazine February 25th, 2007. She asks me the question, Suze Orman, are you heterosexual? What am I supposed to say to that question? It's like, no, I'm not heterosexual. I've never been with a man my whole life, Ernie. And so she asked the question, and then it went on from there. I asked her to please not write about it because I didn't want the public to think that I chose to come out in the public at the same time that I was launching a book called Women and Money. And I knew if she said that, every interviewer across the United States would only want to ask me about, Suze Orman, is it true that you're a lesbian?
All right.
What happened was, because everybody knew, it was media for about 1 week, and then it went away. As I went through the interviews throughout the United States, nobody even really asked me about it. So in retrospect, it was the greatest thing that she ever could have done for me. At the time, was I happy about it? No. But you have to believe in life, everything happens for the best, and that most certainly did.
Now, before I let you go, because we're just about out of time, I remember one time you told me you wanted to just hang up a sign that said, "Gone fishing," and pack it all in and go.
Funny that you're saying that, because just
Why?
yesterday I was talking to KT, my life partner, and I literally said to her, KT, I'm not joking about this. I want to hang up a sign that says, "Gone fishing." I want to make it that nobody's going to know where we went. I just want to kind of pull a Johnny Carson. And honest to God, I was talking to her about just the other day. She's sitting right over there. She can verify it. But anyway, I don't know when that will be. 2 years, 4 years from now, you know, I'm going to be 59. I'm getting there. I just can't imagine that I would be doing this past the age of 65. But then again, Ernie, you just never know, do you?
You don't. And what I have to say now is thank you so much for sitting down and talking with us. Truly a pleasure.
I love your boyfriend. You are approved.
Suze ORMAN.
To order a DVD of this or any episode of Interviews, please visit HoustonPBS.org.